We are live.
Of Zambia's unsung heroes. Through this song, I remember and celebrate the lives of Zambia's unsung heroes. I remember Robinson Puta, Titus Mukupo, Lawrence Katilongu, Michael Chileshi, Patu Simoko, Tim Mbaula, Teddy Chilambe, Spokes Chola, Brian Chwangi, Godfrey Chitalo, Alex Chola, and the unnamed mothers, daughters, and sisters that have inspired us all for the greater good of this country. So hear me out.
Does it sound good?
Nakalila, Karikula, Amalanda, Agamangu, Nakalila, Karikula, Amalanda, Nalindilele, Nalindilele, Pakumfuata Mangu Kawabemba, Kalila. Nabanji kushatini wafoye nawe bati nimuno Zambia mtungushi shapa nalindilele bakufwaga mangu kababemba kalina nabanji kushatini wafoye nawe bati nimuno Zambia mtungushi shapa no Zambia, Wakabwe, Bayai, Wamaiko Chilishi, Wahari Kumbula, Bayai, Wamainza Chona, Wamundia, Bayai, no Zambia, Wakebi Musoko Twale, Bayai.
Our viewers, wherever you're watching us from, welcome to this special edition of the Bakwetu TV. The theme of the program today is the Zambian diaspora investing back home. I'm your host. My name is Patrick, hosting from Sussex, United Kingdom. And then I've got Mr. Chasaya, who is my co-host today from Canada. And then our guest today is Mr. Chona, who is the co-founder of a co-founder and CEO of a company called Zacstar Zambia Limited. And I'll ask the guest and the co-founder to introduce themselves. But before I do that, today is the beginning of a series of shows where we'll be showcasing the successes of some of the Zambian businesses started by the diaspora, in Zambia. And sorry about that. Where is our guest? I'm sorry, our viewers, we've got a bit of internet challenge from Zambia. And I would love to. Our guest is Mr. Thomas Chona. We having a bit of an internet challenge. My co-host is Mr. Chasaya Sichilima. Mr. Chasaya Sichilima, can you just introduce yourself to the viewers? You mute. Mr. Chasaya, you're mute.
Technology, I apologize. um, First of all, I'd like to thank TVBakwetu for giving me this opportunity to be part of this a very engaging discussion. My name is Chasaya Sichilima. I'm currently based in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada, and I'm a computer scientist as well as musician, and a very big diaspora advocate, believing that the diaspora has a stake in the economic development as well as the developmental agenda of Zambia.
Okay, that's fantastic, Mr. Mr. Chasaya. Uh, have we got Mr. Chona in there? Mr. Chona, can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, good evening. My name is Thomas Chona. I'm the CEO of Zacstar Zambia Limited here in Zambia. Thank you very much for inviting me to the program, and I hope to interact with the viewers tonight. I'm sorry the internet is not so good, maybe going in and out as I try to work around the internet.
Okay. Okay. Okay, that was good, Mr. Chona. We're gonna bring you back on the program. Just a preamble to what we'll be discussing. Today's show is part of various or series of shows where we'll be talking about the successes and attempts of Zambian businesses owned by the diaspora, such as Zacstar Zambia Limited, the company we'll be talking about today. Um, His Excellence, the President, HH's declaration at the just ended Zambia Diaspora Conference in November, he said that he would love to see the diaspora to be part of the economic development agenda of Zambia. And our president, HH, calls the diaspora the 11th province of Zambia. The OAU, the AU, African Union, calls the diaspora the sixth region of Africa. This is how important the diaspora is. And then the Zambian diaspora, these are some of the things we'll be talking about. The Zambian diaspora answering the call, all their wishes to be participants in the economic development of their country, which is Zambia. Today we mainly talking about Zambia, but the next program we'll be talking about the global diaspora. You know, so for a long time, the economic development agenda of our country, Zambia, has been set by people who are not connected to Zambia. And then it's about time that Zambians locally and those in the diaspora themselves set that economic development agenda. And one of the ways this can be achieved is by the diaspora working in partnership and collaboration with the government agencies, parastatals, local councils, banks, or financial institutions, and local businesses, and so on. And then we'll also look at the global impact and perspective of the diaspora involvement in the economic development, or how Zambia can leverage the full potential of the diaspora human and financial capital, looking at the diaspora as an investor. Mr. Chona, can you just tell us, tell the viewers about yourself? Your, your skills. Just a short bio about yourself before we go into the question time.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. So
Let me
I
summarize
grew
the
up here.
question, Mr. Chona. Just hold your thought. Or let me give you the question. Give us
Okay,
a brief bio of yourself, including why you co-founded Zacstar Zambia Limited, which is a renewable energy company. Over to you.
okay, okay. Thank you so much for that question. I actually grew up here in Zambia. My schooling was done here in the village. Chona village was my main school. I started school there and finished my grade 7 there and went to secondary school at Canisius, and then from there to the University of Zambia. Um, I worked in the banking industry in Zambia my last bank was Finance Bank before I actually went into the diaspora. And so over in the diaspora, I worked for a banking sector also there at CIBC in Canada. And from there, I decided to, I've actually visited Germany. That is where I saw renewable energy in action for the very first time. And it just blew my mind. And I thought, wow, this is what we need back home. And immediately I got back to Canada. I decided that is what I should study and try and bring back home. So I made up my mind immediately. I saw it because it was so applicable in the rural area where I grew up. So I found that it was a very good opportunity for me to contribute in the growth of first of all my village and Zambia as a whole. So that's how I decided to do this. Now founding Zacstar. Before I did that, actually, I went through. I co-founded an NGO called Global Projects, and that's the one that assisted me to install solar on the school which I attended back in the village at Chona School, and also helped me to install solar on 2 other schools. So after that, I thought it would be a good idea for me to set it up as a business, and I got some partners who are Zambians themselves, and that's how Zacstar has become to start here in Zambia.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Mr. Chona, and I can see you really care about the community, especially where you grew up. But then, Mr. Chona, you left Canada, which is much more comfortable than Zambia, and co-found Zacstar. Why did you do that? And when did that
Mm.
happen? Which year was that?
Well, it's because I've been coming home for a long time. I have relatives here, and I've always considered myself an asset for, especially the people in my village back home. I consider myself as a contributing asset to them. So they've always been in my heart. Although when we uh, uh, um, um, put Zacstar together, I think all of us have the same kind of objective. We all have Zambia at heart. Zacstar is made up of Zambians, so it's wholly owned by Zambians who have the same
Fantastic.
passion as I do for our country, Zambia.
And all these Zambians are in the diaspora, or lived in the diaspora. It looks like we've lost our.
And
You there?
in the
Okay.
economy.
Okay. Do all these Zambians who are owners of Zacstar live in Zambia or from the diaspora? We've lost him, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, we've lost him.
Mr. Chasaya, do you know whether these Zambians are they all from the diaspora?
I think Mr. Chona can speak to that. I wouldn't be comfortable answering those questions on his behalf, especially that
Okay.
question.
Okay. What can we do now? Our man is okay. He keeps on dropping. The internet is not
Yeah, it's kind
that.
of a sad scenario, but my hope, again, I think we keep talking about that the new Dawn government is something that we should look into about internet connectivity. It's
Internet
actually,
connectivity in
it's a very
Zambia.
big deal. It applies to infrastructure, IT applications. It just covers a lot. I mean, communication, even when you're communicating to Zambia, now typically to WhatsApp, it's the same issue. So it's a big deal. And I hope that even as the country's debt burden is unlocked, they can look into it. Mr. Chona is back. I can see him.
Yeah, Mr. Chona is back. Yeah, we'll keep on chatting about that. It's a very important topic, but let's bring Mr. Chona, who is our Mr. Chona. You back? Yeah. So I was asking, our viewers would love to know who are the founders, the owners of Zacstar. Are they all Zambians from the diaspora, or it's a mixture of Zambians in the diaspora and Zambians locally?
It's a mixture, actually, of Zambians in the diaspora and local Zambians here at home. So it's a mix. And that's what makes it good and unique, in that there's that good partnership between the locals and those in the diaspora.
So that collaboration or partnership has already started.
Yes, definitely. It has already started. Zacstar has already started operating. We actually started operating fully end of last year, although we did some installations in 2020, but we're looking at licensing and all those things. But we have completed since 2021, and this year we are actually fully operational.
Yeah, okay. We'll come to licenses and challenges and everything later. But before Mr. Chasaya comes in, Mr. Chona, in a nutshell, what does Zacstar do? Or what are some of its products or services or inventions or the services that it offers? Over to you.
So Zacstar is a renewable energy company, and renewable energy products include solar products, that is solar PV, solar inverters, solar batteries. We also do small wind turbines, and we are also looking at research. We also do research and development of solar equipment. So we are involved with, in partnership with various organizations, including universities in Canada and in Finland. And so we are working in collaboration to develop some products that we can use in the market in Zambia.
So that includes solar panels.
Well, yes, we sell solar panels, although we do not manufacture them currently. But of course, in the long term, that is something that we are looking at.
So
yes.
you've spoken about solar panels. You've spoken about wind, which are one of the two greener energy. With the shortage of electricity in Zambia, are you guys thinking about one day going into generation using solar and wind?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are looking for opportunities in generation of power. First of all, currently, because we are a startup, we are looking at bridging the gap in the residential properties. There was a deficit, or we still, I think, experience a deficit because we are experiencing global warming and so forth. So definitely the deficit that we were facing before, since the economy is growing and the population is also growing, so definitely the demand for electricity will continue to increase. So we would like to be in the market here to bridge that gap. And also, 78% of the country is actually not electrified. The grid is not there.
Yeah,
So those people need to be electrified. So we need to bridge that gap between the rural communities which are not electrified, and even those who are electrified. Also, there are some who face challenges and who can save by using solar energy.
that's fantastic. Before I bring in Mr. Chasaya, I hope our fellow Zambians in the diaspora and also in Zambia are hearing that. And please, let's share this program. This is a very important program, especially Zambians who are in the diaspora and also Zambians locally, because the diaspora now, as Mr. Chona has demonstrated, are actually partnering with the Zambians locally, to develop our country, to get involved in the economic development of our country. Mr. Chasaya, over to you. Any questions for Mr. Chona?
Oh, for sure. So, Mr. Chona, you've decided, made the decision, you've sought your wife's approval to go to Zambia, and you're in Zambia. So, what was the process of setting up the company, and what kind of licenses did you have to apply? And I also take you back to when you started the process, and then also how easy was it to obtain this licensing? Because eventually, for you to start, from the process of starting to actually selling an installation, you have to go
Yeah,
through and fulfill Zambia's regulatory frameworks, or we've lost him.
we've lost him. Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's continue talking about the internet because that's what. Okay, is back again. Mr. Chona, you back? I'm gonna. Yeah,
Yes,
just hold on.
yes,
Yeah,
I'm sorry
yeah,
about that, but
yeah. You
I
know
think
what we're gonna
Chasaya's
do?
question.
What we're gonna do is one day we're gonna just talk about the internet issue in Zambia.
And then, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, because it's very important.
it's
Um, South Africa is one country that said no. Let's make sure that internet connectivity is improved. They started lowering up fiber. Rwanda is doing it. Kenya, they've done it. I was in Kenya. The internet is fantastic. Botswana, the only country when you call by WhatsApp, the only country that keeps on dropping calls is Zambia. So we even Congo is better than Zambia. But anyway, that's a topic of another day. Mr. Chasaya, can you continue with your question for?
yeah. So can you hear me, Mr. Chona? Can you hear me?
If I got
Yeah, we
Chasaya's question correctly, he was asking about the licenses and the
No,
challenges
before,
of
yeah,
getting the
before that. Well,
licenses.
basically, I was saying from the time you made the decisions to move to Zambia and then to start the whole process of setting up the company, how long did it take? What were the challenges? How easy was it to obtain them?
uh, oh, we keep on losing him, Chasaya.
Yeah, I think it's very unfortunate, and I don't know how we're going to do this.
Mm,
But the
yeah.
perspective of that question is just, Patrick, there's been I think for all of us who want to set up businesses or who have set up businesses, it's one thing to make a decision, and then when you go to Zambia, it's a whole different thing. So the Zambia
Mm,
that you left, for instance, is different from the Zambia that you go in, and so you have to deal
mm,
with licenses from the city council. Do you need
mm,
approval from the energy regulation board? Because obviously, I think for a company like Mr. Chona's, there are things that they have to follow. Do you need approval from organizations such as the Engineering Institute of Zambia? If you're in IT, for instance, do you need any approval from the Computer Society and all those organizations? So that's a very important concept to understand. And I hope that we can also learn for those of us attempting to do it, because I think you can only learn from those who have done it before.
Yeah. Before he comes, because this is a renewable company, and okay, it looks like he's come back. Yeah, it's yeah. Let's continue. He's back, but he's still not connected. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe the alternatively is for him to remove the video. Now
maybe
that
maybe that would help. Yeah, maybe we can suggest that.
The viewers have seen him.
Yeah, I think we can suggest that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's the video that is causing. Okay, he's connected.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chona, can you hear us? Oh my God.
Yeah, remove the video for now and we'll see what happens if it improves the connectivity.
Yeah, let him come and then we advise him. Yeah. So I think something needs to be done in terms of internet connectivity in Zambia. But also you remember we talked about coding. Start teaching kids about IT. What do they call it? ITC, as early as primary school. Especially the young generation now, because IT, is the way to go. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but I mean, you have a very good point. But still, I think all those things, I would love kids in Shangombo to learn software development. They learn Python, they learn C# and all these languages. But I think the big deal still has to come down to how can they be engaged? Because remember, Zambia is very vast. But there's a way that even that can be addressed, and it still comes down to connectivity and bandwidth, so that the guy in Shangombo does not have to come to Lusaka or see a computer when he's 20 years old, after going to university. I think that thing has to be addressed. So I know if the government is watching or their representatives, they certainly have to think about this. And I think it has to be, it's critical, actually. It's very critical. It's something they have to think. I mean, I think this is free advice or a free submission. Instead of me giving a submission in the budget, I think the Minister of Finance has to look at this seriously with his colleague, the Minister of Technology, in the next budget, or there has to be a plan to address this. It's critical. You can see how even a very serious discussion like this is being stifled, not because none of us want to be part of it, but just because of technology. It's about time.
Yeah, I think the developed countries, I like talking about the UK because I live here, and a lot of people don't want us to say that, to talk about the UK, because it's not Zambia, it's not Africa. But the government took the government came up with a policy. We're talking of over 20 years ago, that they wanted every household to have fast internet, and they were talking about 5G by last year, which has been achieved by most of the homes. We've got 5G we only this year. Yeah, so the government made sure that fiber is rolled throughout the country, and a private company will never come and do it.
No.
You never come. It's the government
No.
that will do it, and it's
Yes.
and I think it's subsidized because it's very cheap. That kind of internet, very fast internet. Because I was wondering what was going to happen during COVID last year if we didn't have fast internet. Because I
Yes.
worked from home for 2 years. I never went to the office, and the internet is good. We were working. Everybody was at home, and Zambia, yeah, we cannot do it overnight, but we can start slowly. In Lusaka, is in Lusaka and is having problems. What about those in the rural areas?
Yes, and to your point, Patrick, definitely COVID really illustrated the value of the internet.
Yeah.
People lost jobs for those who could not have the opportunity to work
Yes.
online. But the bigger deal for me in Zambia, the point is also for students at university or colleges. Most of the colleges are along the line of rail. So that at the time when the decision was made for people to, to isolate or go back to homes, or there are all these measures, it meant that students who come from rural areas or areas where they don't have internet access were very much inhibited and at a disadvantage. I mean, you can just imagine the scale. So, and I don't know if a survey was done or statistics were done, how much knowledge has been lost in between that time for students who did not have access to a high-speed internet. It's quite a
Yeah.
shame, but like I said earlier, lessons have to be learned so that the next time, and God forbid something like COVID hits, Zambia is better
Yeah.
prepared. We don't just say
Yeah.
these things because we are here. It actually impacts the kids, and I think the Zambian government or those who are in government must have seen the impact. If you love children, if you love people being in school, you must appreciate that young man from Shangombo or the young man coming from Kaputa or from Solwezi, once he goes back, he does not have access to this internet where you say, oh, you learn online. They don't, and most Zambians don't. So that's a big deal that they have to look into, and hopefully, and then if you extend it to services, it's just another area, and it cascades into something much bigger. So I do hope, and we'll keep on talking until we hear something is cooking from the Zambian side.
Before I bring in Mr. Mapaza, who is in Zambia, but the points you've made, Vachasaya, are very important points. During COVID, our kids were schooling at home using tablets, and and they continued schooling. And then the other point I wanted to make is Zambia can make a lot of money in tourism. We've got uh, powerful tourist attractions, but then how can we attract tourists? Because some tourists, they want to come on a working holiday, and if the internet connectivity is not good, like I was in Zambia, the 2 weeks of June, the last 2 weeks of June, I took my work laptop. I really struggled, to just connect to the server. If I buy bundles, they just finished in a second. So if I came to Zambia on a working holiday and I struggle like that, would I come again? But the most important thing is this government, they've taken a step. We've got a technology ministry and a technology minister. And I've been following Mr. Mutati. He's trying to do big things there. And but he needs budget allocation. He needs money. You
At the
know,
end,
ev-
yes, at the end of the day, yeah, for
at the
sure.
end of the day, he needs money. Otherwise he's not gonna do it um, um, without money. Mr. Nkwilimba, we're talking about we've lost our guest here, internet. You are in Zambia. What can you say about that?
Well, as you have already observed, connectivity in Zambia is such a challenge. Can you hear me? Am I loud?
Yes, we can
We
hear
can
you.
hear you.
It is such a challenge. Perhaps maybe it would be good to host Honorable Mutati one of these days to find out what the government is doing about this situation. As I've said, it's
Isaac,
affecting a lot
Isaac
of.
Owens.
Yeah, really, I think we need to bring him here and so that we can learn what is going on in this area. Is the government doing something about it? For how long are we going to wait before we can have, a faultless, so to say, connectivity? Our neighboring countries are doing far much better. I was in Mozambique for 8 years. They have good internet there. You don't have the kind of problems that you have in Zambia. So if others have done it, Zambia, this is the time we need to do it because really technology is the way to go. Internet is not, it's not something that we can say by the way. It is the main thing, and government needs to bring it into the main business. We can't hear you. You are muted,
Patrick.
Internet in Zambia, all over the world, is not a luxury. It's a necessity. You know, like here in the UK, you've got wireless internet in the house. The moment you enter your house, you get the internet from the house. And internet is very important. That's how we communicate to people in Zambia, and how are we gonna do business as a diaspora with the Zambians in it? Because we're doing business while we're sitting here. When connectivity is so bad, you know, some days I phone somebody in Canada, maybe Mr. Chasaya, maybe Yuba Mapanza in Zambia, somebody in South Africa, in Congo, no problem with WhatsApp. But the moment I call Zambia, it keeps on breaking. So how do you communicate? And I hope one day we need to bring Honorable Mtati here, so that he can tell us, because obviously the government has got a policy, maybe, short term, long term. How are we going to solve this problem of internet connectivity? I know there are a few companies like they're doing fiber, but it's only for big companies, banks, yeah, but not. We want that fiber to be rolled to almost every household in Lusaka. Over to
Yeah,
you, Bachasai.
Just in my program, when I have, regularly on Tuesday, it's so difficult, even, to have somebody from the copper belt. You won't believe it. In Ndola itself, somebody was in Ndola, we couldn't carry out the program. Somebody was Rufanyama, we couldn't do the program. And would like to, hear from all the constituencies from, from all over the country. But we can't do it because some places, you won't just make it because of internet challenges.
Yeah, Mr. Kwilimba, you spot on. Today we've got a very important program. We're talking about the diaspora, the 11th province of Zambia, and the AU calls it the sixth region of Africa. Very important economic development partner with Zambians. And we've got a company that has been started by the diaspora, working in collaboration with Zambians. And we wanted to hear how these guys have managed to do it, and how the diasporans now can come together and do what Mr. Chona is doing, even bigger things. But then we've got internet issues. Over to you, Bachasa.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is just that even when we are saying, we want to hear from Mr. Mtati, I think it's to understand what the issues is, what their long-term strategies are, the difficulties, are they doing it? And the Minister of Finance, I really do hope that there will be a shift in getting ministers to account. I think somebody said that, once you put people in power, it becomes your job not to hold them accountable and not to be afraid of them. I mean, it's a better relationship, and I hope that even those in leadership in government understand that when we're asking questions, it's also they can explain to us, because sometimes also we don't know what they're doing. We just don't know. Maybe they're doing something about it, but we don't know. And as long as there's that lack of communication piece, we're left to speculate, and that's not a good thing to do. But hopefully, I do look forward to having the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Technology, and all the key players in this environment, so they can answer. And I do know that when they come to the media, it also is an opportunity for them to explain to the wider nation, Zambians abroad and also Zambians locally.
That's fantastic. I've seen somebody saying Mao Sampa had the focus to introduce internet in public places. Who stopped him? Is it ECL? Yeah. So and then Boniface Sikana is saying internet is very bad here in Zambia. Yeah, Boniface, I know that. I was in Zambia the last 2 weeks of June, and I tried to speak to some government officials regarding this matter and other matters, but to no avail. Yeah, so this is one of if there's one thing I cry about Zambia is the diaspora. Zambia, like many African countries, to leverage the diaspora human capital and financial capital, but then also internet connectivity. I cry every time I go to Zambia or whenever I call somebody in Zambia, you know, you know. So I hope Honorable Mutati is listening. We're not we're not saying anything, we're not condemning the government. All what we are saying is let's work together. Let's find a solution. There should be a solution to this, a short-term solution, medium-term, long-term, and then also the government communicate. Can we have Honorable Mutati coming here, Minister of Finance? What's the plan? Because obviously for the president to introduce the technology ministry, he knew what he was talking about, and he knows this problem, and this problem needs to be improved. This issue needs to be looked into as soon as possible. But I've got Bamwelwa. Anything to say?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I think maybe sometimes I tend to think that because we've lived in maybe societies which are slightly progressive technologically, our expectations sometimes they're valid. Our expectations are very valid because we do realize the importance of technology or the internet access, but we are sometimes a little unfair on ourselves because our levels of development, and I say this lightly because again, I don't agree when people say that you are not as developed, because we all develop at different points or at different rates. We are not yet at the level of the UK or Europe, and it's because we are slightly behind. So even when we look at technology, we are talking that we as Zambians, we are, let's say, I tend to think we're 5 years behind the UK in a lot of things. So sometimes the challenge, like Mr. Nkulimba has explained, like some of the challenges that you're going to have a client that comes on the show and you let them know they're supposed to maybe log in a couple of minutes earlier. Then when they try to log in, they find that their devices maybe are a couple of years behind. So their camera and whatever technology that is on their phone is not compatible with StreamYard. That happens a lot of the times. So that is an indicator that we are actually behind technologically, that even if the internet were to be sorted today, our phones might not be adequately paired with the technology we are itching for. So we have to be a little bit patient, I suppose, especially with the Ministry of Technology. I wasn't very excited about having the minister that is there because I looked at him and thought, this man is an old man, but that's not to say that he knows what he's doing. But the challenge that we have is we're a couple of years behind. What we know of maybe technology is simply social media. That's why you find the knowledge that is next to the icon of the Google icon isn't being utilized, because if we were utilizing that, we'll be putting a lot of pressure on our government to say, look, we are behind. Can we have an update to our technology? But this thing needs to start from the grassroots. It needs to start from our schools. It's so unfortunate that the schools within our vicinity where I live, where you're going to find that when they're doing their ICT exam, they're using 4 computers. And these 4 computers are supposed to cater for over 100 students to write a final exam. So there's a queue outside. The kids are locked in this school. And until they finish, maybe if it's going to be 01 or 02, each child is going to sit at that computer. That's where the problem starts from. And that's where we're supposed to start correcting the error from. Because if we correct the error at that point by changing the syllabi or the education system, it's more applicable at that level. By the time maybe we're giving ourselves a couple of 5 years, technologically, we could then say, all right, yes, let's match up with other nations. But we are really having to start from the grassroots. So I feel that's a challenge.
Bamwelwa, that was a fantastic point.
Empire.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with an old man. Yeah.
No. Do you know why? Do you know why I say that? I'll justify my old man.
Yes. But
I'll justify my old man assertion because, when we look at technology, there's something about being young and being able to grasp new concepts. And there's something about being elderly and not having that savviness. And
Yes.
for Mr. Mtati, he's a genius. He's a genius. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at technology, it has nothing to do with being genius. It's got to do with being that aptitude to grasp new concepts, which
Yes.
oftentimes, if you're a little elderly, you're a little slower on the uptake.
Innovation.
That was my little That was my
Yeah.
little apprehension about having him as the minister.
But then Bamwelwa, the point we should be asking ourselves is Rwanda, which came from war, is far
Yes.
way above us. Congo, which we think is disorganized. When I call Congo, I've flown from Ndola to Lubumbashi to France.
Yeah.
You phone from Lubumbashi, WhatsApp, very clear. You call Lubumbashi, very clear. Botswana, just next door here, they're doing well.
Yeah.
South Africa, you can't even talk about that. South Africa is Europe. Yeah, let's not even compare ourselves to South Africa. The question is, the point is not Mr. Mtati, not HH, not this government. It's governments and governments before this. So the point is, we need the first point we need to ask, how come we are so behind? Then what do we need to do to get at least closer to Botswana or Rwanda or even Zimbabwe? Zimbabwe is much better than us, and they are just next door to us. Over to you.
I feel like our biggest error sometimes is our very peaceful nature. In being very peaceful, we're very docile. And because we're very docile, we've allowed governments to bring in companies or to authorize service providers that give us these internet connections or whatever. And the government isn't so well, because we're not complaining, we're not speaking up. Like, Nigeria is very robust. If they wake up tomorrow and they'll tell Mnet that Mnet cannot raise their prices, they're all just not going to subscribe. Whereas we in Zambia, we're going to mourn and talk about it, but we're not going to really complain and force our governments to change or to put pressure on the service providers. Airtel and MTN, we have Zamtel, which is the Zambian one. So all these companies who are actually serving other nations and doing very well are riding on the infrastructure of Zamtel, I hear. Now, Zamtel's infrastructure isn't top notch. So we fall back onto the government, unfortunately. So sometimes I know we do blame our multinational, these who've come into Zambia, but they're also equally having to ride on the infrastructure. And I think our docility has forced the government to just sit there, and instead of forcing these multinationals that have come in Zambia to actually invest in infrastructure and have their own systems. Because if they have their own, let's say, wireless, I can't remember what the name is called for the, the wiring, what it's called.
Yeah, fiber.
The fiber, yes. So if we force them to make, the fiber they invest in the fiber optics, we will have better. But we haven't forced them. And they're very comfortable. They're not going to spend so much, but they're earning so much off the clients. And we are so docile. All we do is just complain, but we don't really make noise. And we're not really a very robust people that we join hands and, tell off a company. So this happens over and over again. And it's a system, it's a cycle that has been happening. And we've just been really comfortable because we are peaceful and nice. As Gakwacha, good morning, and they greet us. And if they even make our lives a little, there's a new maybe offer that comes on with these multinationals, we normally keep quiet, and that goes on.
Yeah, I think you've made very important points because I think these companies that are coming into Zambia, they need to invest in technology. And there's one company, I'm not advertising it. It's from Zimbabwe. It's owned by a Zimbabwean guy called Econet. They are rolling fiber in Lusaka, but it's only for their big customers, the banks. Not for the individual. And but what I know is all over the world, all the big economies, but Chasaya will support me. It's the role of government to provide infrastructure. Because a private company like Econet, they are not going to roll fiber to the rest of the country. They only roll it in Lusaka, Ndola, where they are making money. Because the aim of those businesses is to make profits for their shareholders. And I'll give an example. Here in the UK, there is a need for a fast trains. You've heard about that from from London to Manchester. You know, the cost of that is now about 30 billion. A private company will never come and do that. So it's the government that's going to do that, the infrastructure, and then the private company will put the wagons. And then what will happen? The government will be charging them money to use that rail. You know, so one way of the government doing it, maybe what HH has started, the triple P, the government working in conjunction with the private companies, and then the private companies are making money on that. Just like roads, you can put a road and work with the government and then start charging the tolls and then getting the money from the tolls. But Chasaya, what are your thoughts about that infrastructure?
My take, I mean, I think we're here to debate ideas, and and then we can eventually refine them. Because I think at the end of the day, if we're talking about an issue, you have to look at alternatives. So I do applaud you about private partnerships, but I think that would fall way back for rural areas. So how do you manage
for
that?
rural
And
areas,
it still comes down to government, because the sense where government is there to enable, provide services, and these are services that you cannot make money out of, right? But eventually it pays off. Same thing like health. The government doesn't make money out of health, but it pays to have a healthy workforce, right?
Yes.
So there certainly has to be a plan. And in saying that, one observation I'd like to make is the fact that Zambia seems to be at the forefront of so many technologies. Like, from what I gather, it was one of the first countries within the region to have TV.
Yes.
Yeah,
what
but if you look
happened?
at,
That's the question. What happened?
How
did we
also
lose it?
I think I've also heard the story where Zambia was the first country to have an internet service provider in that region. But if you look at the level of development that has gone on, I mean, insofar as how these technologies have moved, we pale way in comparison to other countries. Almost other countries discover and they move along with it. Now, I think it's been successful governments that have not, they either don't grasp or just have elected not to care about the general well-being of the country. Or because it's very painful that you were a pioneer, but then you're, because of how you've approached these issues, countries that come after you move way, way, way beyond you. I mean, there was a time when we used to be proud of so many things as Zambians, but over the years, you can't even raise your head high. So my hope is that the government has to be forward-looking, that they leave something that other governments will implement. But also, I think to Mwelwa's point, it's also about us Zambians demanding more from our leaders. And to me, that's why even there's a new government now, but we cannot let them operate the same way that the PF operated, that the MMD operated, that UNIP operated. We have to move and change with the times and demand more and ask more. And we have to find ways of asking more from them. So one of the ways I do think, again, this is a long-term thing, but it's up for debate, where MPs should be recorded if they're not doing what they're supposed to do. But they should be aware to have ministers account if they're not doing something, in some role, because we can't have ministers. And I do realize they are busy. I don't know how government works, but we need answers. We need answers. And if we can't find answers now, tell us, okay, well, we're working on it. We'll get back to you. But we have to find a way that answers that boy in Kaputa, that answers that girl in Shangombo, that answers that boy in Mpulungu, that answers that boy in Lunzua, or that girl. We need answers in one form or the other.
That was fantastic, Chasaya. Before I bring in Vamapaz, I know he's waiting to talk there. What you're saying is we need to be vigilant, and we need to take our leaders, our civil servants, the people we pay, they are our servants, to account. But then, Chasaya, I will take you back, and to me, this is where I think we lost the vigilance. 27 years under almost dictatorship. So it was very difficult to take the government to account, because if you talk, you disappear. I'll give an example. I was a young man when MMD was being formed. I was in Ndola. and we were in Ndola together. We just finished school, and moved to Kitwe just before the elections in 1991. And I was one of the youth leaders in Kitwe. You know, they wanted to deport me for supporting MMD.
Wow.
They wanted to deport me to Congo.
Wow.
Yeah, they followed me to my house. They said, you have to keep quiet. You're talking too much. You're young, and we know you. The next time we're gonna deport you to Congo. So nobody could challenge our leaders. So if you came up the way we are talking, they will start warning us. And then fast forward, things improved. We had MMD, and then what happened in the last 10 years? If you want to talk, you have to go into the bush. So you see where we've lagged. To me, where we've lagged behind challenging the government. So
Yes.
I think this government is, because they've allowed democracy, they've allowed people to express themselves. This government is going to suffer all that we wanted to do in the last 37 years, 40 years.
Yeah,
What do
you
you
know,
think
Patrick, one of the
before
things
going
that,
back out?
can I just make a point here?
Yeah, please.
I do know that the last government really came out to intimidate people. I was a victim, I think, to a point where my family back home, where they were very uncomfortable when they see me expressing myself. They will all say, no, you know, you're putting us in trouble. But it shouldn't be like that. Like, people shouldn't have to feel that way. I also actually received threats from high-ranking people in the police. You know, you shouldn't speak. But we have to speak. But the sad part is, when you allow people not to speak, you actually stifle innovation. And they forget this. And the results are there to show. So when you allow people not to innovate, it affects a lot of areas, developmentally, economy. And it shows where now people are not allowed to think, to share ideas, develop, because a free nation where you allow people to talk and speak, you know, where some people may speak rubbish, but at the end of the day, there'll be good stuff coming out of it. And that's why you have companies forming. You know, if you look at statistics are there to show that countries that are democrats or allow people to speak, they're those countries that actually have a huge agenda in terms of development, a lot of startups, a lot of businesses, because people are able to share ideas. You know, so I really feel very strongly about this, that going forward, this government, and part of the process also is when you're stopping people, or in your quest to stop people to talk or criticize, you spend a lot of money unnecessarily. If you look at what the previous government did, they were ordering all kinds of armory, right? Like never been seen before, just to stop people. And in doing that, they were diverting resources meant to help the everyday Zambian. You know, so basically fighting, oh, that's not necessary. And I do hope this government takes a very different turn, because, you know, as long as we're speaking, we're not hurting anybody. You know, and what also does, when you hear people talking, you kind of know what they're thinking about. The last government got shot because they stopped people talking. They never know what people were thinking, and they thought they had it under wraps, and what they got was a shock.
I think Chasaya, you're right. What these guys were, you're right. You were warned. I was warned. People called me at night. You know, somebody called me and told me almost midnight, you know, from Zambia, that he who lives in a grass house does not throw stones. This is a stranger, you know, because we were challenging the government. And here is the government that didn't want to be challenged because they were not doing nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, and all that they wanted is, when the elections come, they will go with the money. You know, our friend Mr. Bulldozer, who will go with what do they call them? His army.
NATO forces.
NATO forces who were beating up people in Kabushi. You know, and you know, it was really sad because they were not doing their work. And you're also right. How do you go and buy armored vehicles for the police? Are we at war? You know, and that money would have been spent on rolling a bit of fiber in Lusaka and improve internet.
Hospitals,
over and hospitals.
Yes.
Over to you, Mr. Mapaza. Any thoughts?
Thank you. Maybe two points. I mean, in terms of holding the government accountable, you know, I wonder, when you look at the population in Zambia, how many see technology as an important aspect of life? You know, as important as it is, but how many in Zambia really see that as an important thing? So if they don't see it as an important area, there's no way they are going to pressurize this government. But secondly, you know, I think, you know, with the new Dawn government, I think we have a window of opportunity here. The very fact that, you know, as you pointed out earlier, that the president created the Ministry of Science and Technology. There's a reason why he did that. And I think that, you know, rather than be confrontational in addressing this issue with the minister and his ministry, we need to be collaborative. And we need to find out, you know, and first of all, the beginning point is to learn what is it they are doing, because they may already be doing something which we don't know. So we may be talking from a point of ignorance. So we need to actually, I think that's why it's important to bring Honorable Mtati here, so that we can learn what is it that you know is in the pipeline, if at all there's anything. And
But before I forgot, just hold
yeah,
that thought.
yeah.
You saying we bring Honorable Nkulimba. I think it will be important
Honorable
also to
Mtati.
Honorable Mutati. You are in
Mm.
Lusaka, and you are in the UPND structures. Why can't you arrange that we interview Mr. Mutati on this program? You
Yeah,
know, yeah,
if you are willing, if you are willing to host, then I can
I'm willing to host, because this is a
yeah,
business.
I'll try
This
and
is a
see them.
business program, so we bring him in, and then
Yes.
also we can bring in the honorable the Minister of Finance, the honorable Musokotwane, because he also needs to tell us the plans, because these things needs to be planned: short term, medium term, long term. What are the plans to improve internet connectivity? Because he's the man who deals with the money, and I think it's Minister of Finance and Planning, or somebody there, permanent secretary for planning, to come here and just tell us what is the government planning in terms of, because Bamutati alone cannot do it without being supported by Minister of Finance, because this requires a lot of money. Rolling fiber, it has taken the UK over 20 years to have 4G in every 4 and 5G in every house. So even Zambia, it's going to take long. But the point is, what is the short term, medium term, and long term? And this can be explained by Mutati. Over to you, Mama Panza.
I agree, and in fact, I think, as I said, everything should begin with the Ministry of Science and Technology. Finance, yes, they provide resources, but if the Ministry of Science and Technology has nothing in the pipeline, there's nothing that the Minister of Finance is going to do. But if they have something in the pipeline, and then if financing becomes a challenge, perhaps that's why we can bring in the Minister of Finance to, to say his part. What is it exactly? Why can't we raise resources to build up, this facility, which is becoming really key, in the lives of everybody, in the business itself. And the aspect of, remember I said, there are very few people that may see the importance of the issue that we are discussing. There should be even an effort, to educate the public, even in the rural areas. I think there are already things that are happening in the rural areas. People are beginning to use phones, for example, to send money and to keep money, and it's part of training. It's building capacity for people to begin to use this technology. So it needs to be improved so that it becomes easier, for people to learn and to use.
Yeah, but Queen, but before I allow another person to speak, technology can create jobs. Mobile money is one of them. But now here we're talking about bigger, like blogging. Young people all over the world, even African countries, they earn as much as $3,000 a month just to blog. a comedian on social media. I know a young man in Nigeria. I don't want to mention his name. I would be advertising him. He's making something like $50,000 a year, a month. He's got viewership on the internet of over 1 million, viewers. So because the internet is very good, because you need, for you to upload the videos, you need to have very good internet. How many bundles are you gonna use in Zambia to upload a video? And so many videos, and your connectivity has to be constant, has to be stable. Do you have anything to say, Mama Panza, before we move on?
Well, I think I've said what I need to say. Perhaps we can move on.
Damuelwa, what can you say? What are we talking about now?
I think one of the other elements that maybe we are not maybe we haven't yet talked about is that companies actually are the ones that are supposed to bring on these ideas. A reliance sometimes on governments will hold us a little backwards, because if a company comes up and says, look, I'll give you an example. Barclays, that must have been 2018, I think, when they introduced the swipe, where you could literally just go into a shop, buy your goods, and then just swipe as you leave the shop. So that was not the government bringing in this technology. This was the company introducing this technology. So it's the onus is equally on the companies that we allow into our nations. What are the innovation levels? What are they bringing? I mean, mobile money. I have a very debatable stance on mobile money. Mobile money is not a new innovation, and it's not something that we can even maybe in pride say, well, this is a technological advancement for us. Because one, it's not a secure way of keeping your money. It's not something that is really advancing anybody. It actually encourages the washing of or cleaning of money, irregularly, because people are able to move money carelessly. So that again isn't a technological advancement as we like to think it is. It was at a certain point, but that's why it's not applicable in all nations under the sun. People are still using their banking system. Yeah. So even when we look at the technologies that companies are bringing in, we should be weighing them against their credibility. Are they technological advancements? Are they are they bringing any advantages to us? Is this a new innovation? At the moment, you were talking about the comedian that has such a large following. At the moment, it's moved. We're moving on to Meta, where it's going to be avatars. In China, in Japan, I think Japan was the first one that had an avatar as an influencer. China has them on a larger scale. You'd find one avatar has a following of over 2 million, 3 million, and this avatar does advertising, it produces music, because technologically things move all the time, and then you're kind of left behind, because maybe you're, like we are saying, we're feeling like we're left behind because our levels are not yet at that par. But we're supposed to begin holding accountable these companies that we bring in, and then we equally need to be innovative. Reliance on other companies again isn't so good. But if we as ourselves as nations begin looking at the problems that we have and what technologies we can use to solve the problems that we have, then we are developing for our own nation. Because sometimes development, like I said earlier on, we like comparing ourselves. So we're going to be saying, no, the UK is 5 years ahead of us, blah, blah, blah. But development according to whose needs? So our needs are very different from the needs in the UK. So if people develop according to our needs, I mean, in Zambia, some of the problems that we have, I'll randomly pick this. Maybe it's transporting system. So at the moment, we have a lot of runners at the moment. So if you want to move your goods, I simply ring up a guy that has a Honda, that kind of thing. But if we could automate such a system, these are all things that are solving the issues that we have in our countries, which I think is what I would really love to hear equally from the Ministry of Technology. Are there any grants for such innovations? I've seen some calls for companies that are innovative. I think it is falling under the Ministry of Technology, where if you have this great idea, you could submit it and they will fund it if they deem it fit, that it's an innovative idea and it can employ multiple people, that it has social impact. So they are working on these things because we are seeing them here and there. But like you said, maybe it would be a really good idea to have the ministry or somebody from the ministry in that capacity speaking.
Yeah, I think you're right. Technology is one thing, but then infrastructure also. What we need in Zambia is infrastructure. and infrastructure requires a lot of money, and some of these banks won't do it. You know, they've got their own infrastructure. Like you're talking about swiping, the banks have got infrastructure, and the ShopRites and them, they've got money to have also their infrastructure. They might get it from Econet, the banks get it from Econet, but what about the ordinary Zambian? Do they have the same internet? Because you would have an innovation, Bamwelwa. If you got the infrastructure to build that innovation on, is it cheaper? It might be very expensive for you to go to Econet and say, provide me the internet facility. You know what I mean? But Chasaya, what do you think? Is he there? Okay, Bamwela, continue.
I think on infrastructure, you are right. The government might need to really work on that, or they need to get as many partners coming in that have more innovative idea or have the capacity to bring infrastructure. Because I think at the moment, if memory serves right, we only have one satellite or something along those lines, and we need more of these infrastructure. The previous government's infrastructure idea was just roads, and already we can see the deplorable state of the roads that they're very proud of having developed. And we can see the universities that don't even exist that they claim they were, they were building. And I think it's not that we don't have the capacity to do this or we don't have the money for it. I just think the money was taken to the wrong sectors. Because I mean, if the UK was borrowing equally from China, America was equally borrowing from China. But when you look at what they did with that money that they borrowed and compare it with what we did in Zambia with the money that was borrowed, it's the parallels are so bad. So it's evident that we are really equally behind because of poor allocation or poor concentration of what exactly needs to be developed.
I think before Chasaya comes in, I think, Mamuela, you're right. You remember I mentioned about the lost, economists call it opportunity cost. What we lost mostly the last part of mostly under the PF. Imagine the billions that they borrowed, because it requires about $500 million to put a satellite in the space. Nigeria has done it, and I think Rwanda has done it. South Africa, we can't even talk about it. But let's talk about South Africa is a superpower. We can't compare. We can only compare oranges to oranges. South Africa is something else. Let's compare ourselves to Rwanda, Nigeria. Nigeria, they've put a satellite. I think it cost them about $300 million. Then Rwanda has got it, I think, about $500 million, which is 500 million. Who could have done it in the last 10 years and put a satellite to improve
absolutely we could
connectivity? But we are the government that had no vision, Chimbi no plan. That's what HH was saying. They had no plan at all, and they were so wasteful. All they were doing.
Well, he did say that the vision he had was, if you remember, he said the vision he had was for the dead. So
yes,
vision
yes,
so, unfortunately,
you know why they concentrated on roads? Because that was the best way to steal.
Easy.
It was easy to steal money from the roads, to siphon money into the roads and say we are building roads, but they overinflated. Yeah, over to you, Chasaya.
Yeah, Patrick, I've just gotten a message from Mr. Chona that he's trying to get back. They're making efforts to get back. But I think given the time, I don't know, we may have to arrange another program.
Giving the time, we have to arrange another one.
Yeah, well, we have to arrange another program. But I just want to make
we've got 11 minutes to go.
Okay.
So
I wanted to make a quick comment on my system. Well, I think that there are two things here about technology. So government has to provide the infrastructure. There's no doubt about that. Then once you do that, then people are free, those who can with ideas, to provide the other technological development. So there are two aspects. We're not saying government should innovate. No, we're saying government has to provide the necessary infrastructure. And what that does is it also helps to develop human capital. I did see a comment by, I think it's So Piri, who said internet is very expensive in Zambia. So the priority for most people is this
the one? Is this the one?
I think Yeah, I think an earlier one anyway. But
Okay,
yeah, but here's a point.
I'll bring it. I'm looking for it.
But the point I wanted to make is that yes, most people,
Is
the
this the
internet is
one?
not, it's not a necessity. Yes, yeah,
Is this?
it's viewed as a luxury, yeah, and rightly so, because it's expensive, right?
It
But
is.
what that would mean is if you've got affordable internet or it's in everybody's homes, then it no longer is viewed as such, because right now it's only for the rich or those who can afford. But what that would do, if a government has deliberate policy to put internet in every home, they provide the necessary infrastructure, it will just become part of everyday life, like it is here. And I do take the point where people, I think we're all saying, sometimes we look at, we compare life in the Western world and here. I think all we're asking, for instance, we're having this program, is just to have, because the internet can't be seen as a necessary cost. It's the way to go. It will help even young people come up with ideas. I mean, I speak to a lot of young Zambians who really have the thought. They're doing, technical hubs. They're setting up a lot of innovative things. But again, it's being done in clusters. They don't have that government support. And what of government does also to build up and bring in individuals who can actually bring in capital. But you have to provide that enabling environment. And again, to your point, Milo, I do agree. Yes, we have to do things relevant to Zambia, not just pick everything that's here that it should work. So I thought I should make those 2 points.
Yeah, I think Chasaya, you're right. Yeah, this is why I was saying we can only compare apples with apples. We cannot compare the Western world with Zambia, and I think what is relevant for Zambia is what is important. I think what we need is minimal internet infrastructure. Start from somewhere, especially start from the urban areas, because that's where the money is, that's where the business is. Zambia, we look at Livingstone, Lusaka, Ndola, Kitwe, Copperbelt, even northwestern province, and then you roll it over to other provinces. Yeah, because without internet, which is very expensive in Zambia, yeah, we doomed. I was talking to somebody in Zambia, and I said, why all the time I can't get through to you at night or sometimes during the day? And he says, no, this is Zambia. Bundles are expensive. So what do they do it? What do they do it?
Is it paging?
They stop the bundles.
You turn off your data if
yes,
you're not using
yes,
it.
I didn't know about that. I didn't know about
yes,
that.
yeah, you
I
turn
didn't
off,
know
you
that.
switch off, yes,
And
yes.
then he told me, go on your computer on the settings. So somebody from Zambia taught me how to turn off the bundles. He says, but here we don't do it. And in Zambia, you can lose the bundles at night. So we turn them off, and then when you want to talk to somebody, you turn them on. But I said, then internet is a luxury in Zambia. It's not supposed to be a luxury. It's supposed to be a necessity. Just like having a stove and a fridge in the house. That's not
Yes.
a luxury.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So over to you, Vamapanza. Yeah, I think we are winding up now.
I think we had a point. I know she was laughing. Do you have anything to say, my sister?
My sister, say something
No,
here.
no, I was laughing that they were helping you also technologically be developed.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't know Zambians knew a lot about technology. Imagine teaching me how to
one of the interesting
stop the bundles,
yeah.
because they can finish.
The other thing also that I was very I come back to Zambia and my uncle begins to teach me about the internet services, and he goes, when you get the internet, you need to choose a good network. You just don't go for any. So you choose this network, and you have to buy your phone outright. You can't get it on contract. You have to subscribe to bundles. They have like promotions. Each network has promotions, and it felt like a learning curve. When actually it was a retrogressive curve for someone maybe who had the access prior, where I'd walk into a shop and get a contract phone and pay it for such a long time. And I thought, in my eyes, I thought that was development. And then I get back here and says, well, you buy it outright. Why would you be buying a phone in bits and pieces? You know? But I think that's the funny thing about technological assumptions or perceptions.
Have you seen the comment there?
Yeah, I saw the one that he needs to go on the anthill.
This actually happened to me in 2010. May his soul rest in peace. I lost my dad, so I had to go to the funeral in Chinsali, and we arrived in Chinsali. My phone had no bar on the phone in terms of internet, and then my cousin says, "Go and stand on that tree, near that tree." The moment I went to near that tree, I got the few bars, and I was able to call the UK.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? And some people had to go and stand on an anthill.
You're even lucky that you were standing on an anthill.
Near that tree somewhere, there was internet. How they were getting it, nobody knows.
Yeah, I've been to my husband's farm, and he's on a hill, and unfortunately, it's one of those places where we to get to his land, you have to jump this river. So when we jump across this river quite okay, and then in about 30 minutes we try to come back and we find the river is full and we can't get across. Now we need to call back home and say, look, we're stranded, but there's no network, so we have to walk back up the hill for another hour to trap ourselves up there and call people back to say. And it's a sad reality, but I'm hoping that the more of us the government does a lot more and people have access, because some of these places are literally along the road and you can't get internet access. So it's an unfortunate reality, but I hope we're getting more and more developed as we go along.
But Chasaya, are you there? Yeah. But Chasaya, are you there?
Sorry, Patrick, I was getting a call from Mr. Chona trying to contact me. So
before Chasaya comes in, we'll be we'll be making closing remarks. I'll start with you, but before that, I just want to tell our viewers, thank you so much for your viewership. Today we were supposed to have, for those who don't know what we're talking about here, today we were supposed to have a company called Zacstar, which is co-founded by Mr. Thomas Chona, who is also the CEO. He was supposed to be our guest today, but because of internet connectivity in Zambia is so bad, we keep on losing him. And we hope to bring him next week. Maybe somehow internet will improve. But we've embarked on a series of bringing people from the diaspora to come here who are investing in Zambia, so that we can celebrate their successes, and also how the diasporans can work with Zambians and develop our country. And Zacstar Zambia Limited is one of the companies that has done that. The diasporans from Canada, all over the world, they are working with Zambian companies, Zambian people. They've started a greener energy company, and that's very, very good. That's very important. But we're going to bring Mr. Chona. I don't think we'll bring him today. We'll bring him another day. But because we had problems with internet connectivity, we started now talking about the internet. How can we improve the internet connectivity in Zambia? Because it's so bad compared to the few countries around us: Rwanda, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Botswana, including the DRC. We are the most we are behind. So what can we do to improve that? We talked about, let's bring our minister. He comes here of technology, Honorable Mutachi, tell us what the government is doing, inform the nation, what are the plans, short term, medium term, long term, so that internet connectivity can be improved in Zambia. We talked about the triple P. Maybe we can go in partnership with the government, especially the diaspora. The diaspora can because the diaspora has got a lot of Zambian scientists, technologists. Mr. Chasaya is a computer scientist in Canada. Maybe the diaspora partnering with the government in terms of human capital and money start investing in internet infrastructure in Zambia, and that could be a very good business. Yeah. So we're now getting closer to closing the program. Thank you so much for your viewership. Please send those stars, and we're so sorry. I sincerely apologize for what has happened today. It was going to be a very, very good program, but we will still bring Mr. Chona again because we just started. And Mr. Chasaya, I'll start with you. Any closing remarks? What are the solutions? Let's not just criticize or challenge the government. What are some of the solutions, to our problem? In your closing remarks, thanks.
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody who tuned in, either by a voice or viewership. It's a very good opportunity, and I really want to say that even when we talk about what should be done, our approach has to be very collaborative. So even when we talk about government, we're not coming to say we are better, we know this. No, we're saying we want to know and learn also and share. So the approach always has been different. We're not any better than people back home. We're not any better. We also want to learn. There are things we don't know. There are things probably we need a lot more understanding. So it's really, at the end of the day, it's a win-win situation. And coming to solutions, I think there's a lot that can be discussed. I think, in my view, it's a story for another day. And again, there's things that we can propose or ideas that we know, but they may not work at home, right? So I think one of the things I've found, even in the brainstorming session, is that you move from a point of many ideas and begin to refine ideas, and eventually you come up with something that works. So I think that's really my approach. In terms of solutions, there's a lot that can be said, solutions to many different situations, but it's really having a conversation. For me, that's how I look at it. It's about having a conversation, and from conversations you learn, and they'll tell us, no, this is not workable here. How about if we did this? But it's about talking, and I feel what TVBakwetu is doing is having a conversation between us here in the diaspora and Zambians at home. Because remember, it's not just government. We've got relatives. I mean, I've got cousins, I've got uncles who want to do better, but also they can do better given the right support and environment. So I still say Zambia Kuchalo. I like that thing now, Zambia Kuchalo.
That's fantastic. Zambia is our country. But Chasaya, I've lived in the diaspora since 1996. I can't even count. But the feeling that I get the moment I land there, either in Ndola or Lusaka, is totally different. There is no place better than Zambia. My heart is always in Zambia, and I want to see that country developed. That country is so lovely. That country is so peaceful.
Yes.
If I go to London today, by the time we've been on the program here, I would have heard 100 gunshots. I never heard a single gunshot in Zambia for 2 weeks. So that country just requires collaboration, partnership with the government plan, and that country can be the best place, to be in the world because it's peaceful. Look at our tourist attractions. We can attract the best tourists in that country. So we need to do our work. We need to work with the government, share solutions, share ideas on how we can best develop that country. That country has got the potential. I like what President HH says. Zambia is not landlocked, it's land linked. So that landlocked is not a disadvantage, it's actually an advantage. Look at Congo. Zimbabweans now are buying things from Zambia. So Zambia can be the breadbasket of Africa, starting with our neighboring country and then Africa. Bamwelwa, what can you say?
I think in conclusion, I think I'll go back to my earlier session where I said that I love the fact that we are peaceful. That one is one of the major things. I think that's it. The major advantages of being Zambian is the peacefulness. But I think we as a people sometimes tend to be a bit too docile. And even when we can demand for things, I think we have... I did get you when you said that we have been in administrations which were quite repressive, and we were a lot of people were not allowed to speak, or if you wanted to speak up, people would, hush you down. But I think we are still, we are still a bit, tentative, and we're not so sure. And it's a bit similar to I call it, the African American syndrome, where you're free, but you still don't behave like you are free, So we need to get to that point where we really take up the freedoms that we have, speak up in unison, rather than just moan about it, because we just moan to and as long as someone maybe makes us feel a bit nice with words and lip service, we're okay the following day. But we need to begin to demand for actual change. And when we see it, we move on to the next thing and demand for better, because we do know better. We're able to look at the world in a wider space now. We know what is happening in other countries. We know the technological advancements that are going on in other nations. So we can demand for better.
But Chasaya, that was fantastic, Mamuelwa. But Chasaya, you wanted to say something before I bring in Bamapaz. Oh, we keep on losing Bamapaz again now. Okay, but Chasaya, you wanted to say something before I close.
I just wanted to agree with my sister about being tentative and being docile. It's almost like a double-edged sword, but we have to change and demand better. We have to, otherwise we'll be going in round circles. So I really echo you on that. We're in the same ship.
But Chasaya, you might know the man who has commented there.
Yeah, we went to school together, Roger. Yes,
we went to school together, Kansenshi.
Of course.
Roger was same intake with me. You were 2 years ahead of us. And Roger is saying collaboration between diaspora and those docile. Roger, how can Roger be?
No, he meant domiciled.
Oh, so domicile. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. Those domicile back home is key. We are not enemies. Oh, that's
Indeed.
fantastic. What can you say about that before we
Yeah.
close?
Yeah, it's just an example of, Zacstar, where there's Zambians in the diaspora and Zambians at home working together to bring up something that's actually going to help Zambia in the end. And I still come back to the point that government should just enable. And so we can see a lot of Zacstas, we can see a lot of Chonas doing all these things in renewable energy, in IT, in social services, in health. So yeah, it's really workable. And I really do thank you, Patrick, for giving me the opportunity to be here. And I hope viewers again will connect on another time favorably.
Yeah.
Internet permitting.
Internet permitting. That was fantastic, Chasaya. Thank you so much for your time, Bamwelwa. Thank you so much for coming to help our viewers. We thank you so much, and I sincerely apologize what happened today, but we improvised, and I hope you enjoyed that. From Bakwetu TV, thank you so much. Good night. God bless you, and bye for now.
Bye from Canada.